guys, I'm back, and I guess today we're going to be doing another install, because guess what has arrived? My Garmin GPS. So I picked this one up from Le Monster Garage, and the main reason I got it from them is for this. This is the handlebar clamp for the F3. I've already done a little bit of pre-assembling. Right there, there is a screw that is absolutely microscopic. It's right there. You're definitely going to need a set of tweezers to get this installed into this plastic. And then I had already pre-assembled this portion. You know, got this all set up off camera, you know, when I got it. You know, there's the wires that we're going to have to tap into power. This is the clamp set that came with the kit. You know, it's not bad, but to me it's a little sloppy, and it'll be clear once we install it that with this right in the dead center of your bars, and I tightened the bolt up, but there's a little screw here that you could a little bolt, and you could flex the head. You could tilt this forward and back. We gotta go out to the bike. We gotta take off the existing clamp and replace it with this one. And then the fun part is running wires. All right, when you're sitting on the bike on the left-hand side, as I recall, we're gonna go find out real fast, aren't we? There is a auxiliary circuit, and those auxiliary circuits are switched. My problem is with these things is if you use this and you go right into your battery, first of all, I don't see a fuse on here. And number one thing, you tap into your battery, you have to have a fuse, you know, within like 8 inches, 6 inches of the battery to keep it from shorting out. I don't see a fuse on this thing. So right off the bat, no fuse. You know, I'd have to go to the hardware store and get a fuse, or the automotive store and get a fuse coupling for this. So we're just going to tap it directly into the auxiliary circuit, which should be switched. And then we're going to use these little things. So it's like, you know, you could put up to 3 wires onto this. So one will be the power coming in, and you could tap 2 off. And for this one, black goes in here, the ground, and then you'll have 2 grounds off of that, so you could actually hook additional stuff up. Like I said, I don't like going into the battery without a fuse. It's just not good practice. There also could be a short here, or you could leave this on there and it's draining battery power. Rykers and Spyders very finicky with the power, very finicky. But you put the right amount of lights, the right amount of this, the right amount of that, and your battery is just going to keep going dead. Probably best not to do that. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm not going to film it because it's boring as hell. I'm going to go take my Allen key sets right here, and I'm going to go find out which one takes off the bolts that are on the bike. It's probably I'm going to go with the metric set, and I know I'm going to need the Torx bits, so I'm going to go check that now. I'm not going to go out there with a whole tool set, so I'm just going to take the tools I need and head out to the bike, and then we'll go from there. I'll let you know what size tools we're going to be using when I know, and then we're going to start taking off the side panel, and installing this, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so went out to the trike, 7mm. All right, 7mm. Take those handlebars off. I already like loosened them up a little bit because they're on there tight. And a T25. Yeah, T25. Yeah, and a T25 Torx to get the panels off. So right off the bat, You're going to need these two to start your disassembly. Obviously got my wire ties because we're going to have to tie all this crap up. Might need a set of wire strippers. There's not a lot of meat on the end of these. Might just strip them back a little bit more. Might have to strip off the wires that are on the bike a little bit. They might have some sort of crimped on connections. I don't know. I haven't gotten the panel off yet. Alright, so we're back out at the bike. So I've already loosened these, but like I said, it's your handlebars. They're going to be on there tight. So we're going to have to take these off. And then we're just going to replace it with this. That's the first step. Then we're going to have to come down here and take off this panel, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think there's a couple of, take this off, take this off, there's a couple of pins in here. This whole assembly should come out, and right about here, if memory serves me, is the auxiliary circuit. It has to come off anyway because I got to run the wires. If I have to go down that way, I have to take this off anyway. So regardless of how we go about doing this, this panel's coming off. All right, so I'm going to sit here for a while and start taking these off. All right, as you can tell, the clamp is off, and this bottom portion is not attached to the steering bracket underneath it. Just be aware of that. So what I'm going to do first is get this new clamp on, get the bolts seated, then I'm going to take them out one by one, Loctite them, and thread them all the way in. Okay, because it's a two-hand assembly. Okay. And once again, blue Loctite. Reason you don't want these coming loose for obvious reasons. It's your handlebars. All right, so I told you what I'm going to do. Let me go do it. We'll get back. Okay, so that's been, like I said, this is the temporary install. It wasn't that easy. Actually, I had to have my neighbor come over and help me out, and by holding this side just to align those bolts. Once you get this off, get in there, the plate that these bolts go into, get a little wire brush and give those a clean. It'll be a lot easier to get your bolts started. So like I said, this is now finger tight. You know, you could still position the handlebars. So now what I'm going to do is start backing these out one by one, Loctiting them in, getting them back down to snug. And then I'm going to sit on the bike, reposition my handlebars where they should be, and then snug them all home. Then we have to fish the cable down through here, in through here, and you know what? Let me see something. Yep, that's his auxiliary circuit right there, so I was right. But it's probably zip tied down lower. I don't know if it runs up or down. So we're gonna have to take this panel and dig around in there. Right. It's in. It's Loctited, it's tight. And of course now the entire bike, which I just washed yesterday, you know, in freezing cold, is now covered in this yellow spaff. So I gotta clean all that off. I have to go get a Allen key socket so I could put it on my torque wrench. Like I did put a lot of force on these right now. I don't think they're going yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere. So I feel safe, but before I go on any distant journey or anything like that, I'm going to make sure that they're torqued down to the proper specs. Just fishing this wire through here, into here, over to here. It's a lot harder than it looks, and you can't even take this piece out without taking this off, a whole bunch of other crap. This piece does not come out. All right. So that's never going to be an easy chore. All right, so we're just going to have to fiddle with it, push it through here, reach underneath, and try to grab it from underneath, and at least get it started. Yeah, might have to go underneath to get this. Yeah. Oh boy, this is going to be a pain in the ass, because this box is going to have to fit through here. somehow. I'll figure that out. Because the sad thing is, and I probably should have done this first, is put the wires through. When you take this off, this comes off, and you're just left with a little plate. But I didn't want to stretch the wires, but I hope that's not the case. Worst case scenario is I cut the wires here and reattach them afterwards. I'm not against that. Probably not the smartest thing, but as you can tell, there's only 2 pins here. This means this is only power. So should be able to cut that if I have to. I really don't want to, but if I have to, I'll cut it. I'll run this wire and then I'll resplice it together. All right, well, the wire's through. Basically, I used this piece of zip tie to fish it through. Oh boy, but unfortunately this did not make it through, so I had to do what I didn't want to do, which was splice this. Obviously well, not obviously, unfortunately the grounding cable wraps around the power cable down the center, so what you'll have is one solid wire and then strand of wires around this. This was such a pain in the ass. Hopefully it works. I know they wrap it like that for interference purposes, which is what this block is for. I think it'll be okay. We'll see. If not, I'll just have to buy another one of these and try it again. But since this wire is installed, what I'll do is disconnect this, and I'll use this. I'll cut this wire again, and I'll use it to pull the new piece through, which would be a hell of a lot easier because this box will now be staying on this side. There is no room. There's no room in there. There's no room to get in there. It's annoying. Okay? If it was just a straight wire, not an issue. But because of this big ass block, it screwed everything up. We'll see. I'm pretty sure it'll work. And I'm going to take this panel off now. I took those 2 bolts out. Those 2 bolts, these 2 push pins. And this should just, oh, sorry, 3. Missed one. Okay, got to take that out. And then I'll pull this off and I'll show you what's inside. Alright, welcome to the ugly side of the bike. So as I said, the accessory wire is this one right here. It should be this one. Yeah, looks like it terminates right here. So I'm gonna have to cut that, pull it out, get it exposed. So I'll do that now. Okay, so there's the accessory circuit. It was originally tucked down in here. Like the label was up here, but there was a zip tie that held it in right there. So I just cut that, fished it back up, and there you go. So now it's just a question of hooking this wire to these wires, putting the power on, see if it works. And then we'll come back down in here and zip tie the wires. Anywhere above this bar will not be visible. So I've got this wire right here. I can bundle it and zip tie it right there. Okay, wire connections made. I didn't do the shrink tubing yet. I just put it on there. I haven't heated it because I have to test it and see if everything works. And then I'll fish the wires down here and tape them up or zip tie them up inside after I shrink this down. I went with the shrink tubing as opposed to the these blocks. Being that this is all exposed and it's wet, you know, I don't know. I just feel that these are more waterproof, if that makes sense. Because I'll shrink tube it and then I'll wrap it in tape as well before I zip tie it all. Alright, let me go get the unit and we'll see if it works. It's not running yet. Okay. Alright, so now we know that I'll do those wires now. At least I know now that that is switched. There's power going to the unit. When I disconnect the unit, there's no power to that wire when the engine's not running. Gives me a little bit of peace of mind. So let's just tidy up things and put them back together. Alright, Job is tidy. Okay, well, even if you don't install this, just at least you know you have a switched power outlet right there that you can tap into. And coming down here, existing wire harness. I just zip tied the shit out of it. That ain't going nowhere. This is, in case you're wondering, this is for these lights down here. This is an F3T, so it didn't come with these standard. These are the aftermarket ones. I think those might be Le Monster, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I buy a lot of stuff from that guy. Alright, so there we go. So now we just gotta slap this panel back on. And I'm gonna order myself a couple of new clips over here because these are rusting the hell out. Those are brass inserts into the nylon. Okay, let me get this back on. We'll sit on the bike and see how it looks. When you take this panel out, you have to take this cover off because it hooks into here. There's also a pin on the bottom of that screw that goes in here. That's your pivot point. So you take out your bolts in the back and you swing it out this way and pull towards you. When you put it in, you slide that bolt in and then you swing the back around. Boom, you just push it in place, throw a push pin in there, and then you're done. Just throw the bolts in, throw those in, you're done. It's a little dim because it's running off of the batteries right now. That's in the internal batteries. But there it is in all its glory. So, not too bad. It's not obstructing the instrument panel. I think I can move it down a little bit. There we go. I'll probably keep it right about there. Yeah, that seems like a nice angle. Yeah. And then of course you just hit the button back here. Boom. And that's what you got to look at, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So I will oh, let's start the bike up and see what happens. Alrighty, there it is installed. So I will actually take it for a test ride in a little while. Gotta go put my gear on, and then we'll see how it works in the field, and I'll report back to you. Yeah, okay, well this is basically what I see. Pretty much my angle. So I could see the dashboard there, and I could see the GPS here. So now it's just a question of how does it work. There's a lot of features on this thing. Someone will go into a better in-depth report on that. But when you do remove it, you press the button, then you got this little doohickey that covers the pins right here. So unfortunately this is the thing that you have to look at when you're not using it. Okay, here's what I will tell you. If I had to do this all over again, I would have not attached that right there. I would not attach that to this. I would have run the wire first up into here and attached that afterwards. The only problem is, like I said earlier, that there's a tiny little screw in here. It's in the back, but it's microscopic. You drop it out here, trust me, you are not finding it. So that's why I did it inside. It is what it is. I could have done it when I took the handlebars off, because it's this thing that kept it from going through here, and this comes off. Once you undo these bolts, once these bolts come out, this whole thing comes off. So there would have been room at that point, but I didn't think about it. So, you know, that's why you watch these videos, so you don't make the same mistakes I did. I just like shrink tubing better than those types of non-waterproof connectors, especially when water is going to get underneath there, especially when you wash the bike or you're driving through the rain. I just feel it's more waterproof than anything else. And then what I did is I wrapped all the shrink tubing with electrical tape, and the electrical tape is there to take the tension off of the actual joint. Not that it's going to be stressed at all. There's plenty of slack in this wire down here You know, it's not going to pull. Now that everything's installed, I'll briefly go over the tools I needed to install it. First thing, 7mm Allen key. Second thing, T25 Torx. Your little plastic, if you own one of these machines, you're definitely going to have to invest in a set of these. Little plastic pry tool to get those little pop rivets off. Razor knife. You're going to have to cut some wires there. Shrink tubing. Good quality wire stripper. Little diagonal cutters to get your whatchamacallits off, to cut the zip ties. My favorite, Loctite. Little torch. If you have a heat, if you're in your garage, you have a heat gun, that'll work as well. And electrical tape. And then what you're going to be left with is the old cap. Don't throw it away. You will reuse the bolts that came with it. And then everything else was actually from the Monster Garage, which was the replacement cap with the bracket, and then the bracket that actually, the mount that comes with the actual GPS itself. So this is what you'll need. And of course, zip ties. Like I said before, when I installed it, once you take the handlebars off, that's when you should be fishing the wires through. You'll have a lot more room. Like I said, I basically showed you the wrong way to do it, but I kind of boxed myself into a corner. But does it work? Yes. Would I recommend doing it that way? No. Everything else is pretty much what you should do. But when it comes to the wires, yeah, fish that wire through. And like I said, my biggest worry was that microscopic screw. You know what? See how tiny that is? This is they give you two of them and the screwdriver, which is nice. But if you try to install that outside, man, even in your garage, that's going to get lost in dust and sawdust and stuff and leaves and all that other crap. Let me suit up and stuff and get the GoPro on my helmet, and we'll go for a ride as long as it's still daylight out. All right, so we're on the test ride. What are you doing, guy? Hope you can see the screen and everything. It's not going to be a very long test ride. Just want to make sure it's receiving a signal and it's doing what it's supposed to do. Well, appears to be tracking. Of course, I have to see how hard it is to navigate this thing with gloves on. Yeah, went past the flashing lights, bro. That's no go. It's no bueno. It's very easy to see. Of course, today is very overcast, so there is no direct sunlight. I do think they make like a little, like a little hood that goes over this thing and Velcro's in place, so you get like a little hood here. Okay, perfectly good sidewalk, but walk on the street. That makes perfect sense. I will never be able to figure people out. Weird. I'll see if I could navigate the menus with my gloves on. I don't think these gloves, they didn't come touch sensitive, but I don't know if you can see, but they do have these, I did put these little pads on them. They're like little stickers that you could allegedly use with a touch screen. We'll see if they work. It doesn't work too well on the phone. Yeah, I'll probably just drive around until the bike comes up to temperature, because in the cold you're really not supposed to, you know, you don't want the condensation in the bike. So you got to get it hot enough to burn the gunk, the moisture out of the engine. Obviously this thing is new to me, so not exactly comfortable with how to use it yet. You know, I did play around with it inside the house. It's self-explanatory. It's not difficult, but it's actually a pretty good unit, and there's a lot of settings you could do. I gotta figure out how to, well, obviously it's not navigating anywhere, so it's not talking. It's an excellent position though, and it doesn't clutter up the handlebars. Oh, by the way, it's 21 foot-pounds for the bolts on the handlebars. You know, I'm not the strongest man in the world, but I think I got 21 foot-pounds of torque on those bolts by hand. Down. All right, red light. Let's see what happens. Okay, it works. So it can be navigated with gloves. I think this trip has been successful. It's a good test. And here's another thing. If you own one of these vehicles, when you park this, especially when it's cold out, make sure you put it into neutral. Okay? Make sure you put it into neutral. If you turn the bike off in first gear, the bike wants to shift itself down into neutral when you start it, which means it's got to run the pump and all that other junk, and that might, especially if it's cold, that fluid is thicker than normal and your battery is weaker than normal. So guys, you know, you're watching this, but do yourselves a favor. If it's cold out, especially if it's cold out, or just get into the habit of doing so, when you park, put it into neutral. That way, when you go to start it, it doesn't have to go through any processes of downshifting it into neutral, especially if your battery's real low. It might be the might be the tipping point between starting the bike and not. Okay, so this thing is talking to itself. I have to figure out how to pair that. It should be coming over the phone. Alright, well, let's see how good the navigation is. It does, just found out it does slightly block my turn signals. Slightly. Alright, I could hear it talking, telling me where to turn. So when I get into the house, I'm going to have to figure out how to connect that to the phone, and then the phone to my helmet. I connect my helmet to my phone, and then all these devices will connect to the phone. Okay. So, like I said, learning curve, but it seems to be working. I hope the angle of the video is good enough that you could actually see. And I'm going to say that the test has been successful. Good installation. I like the placement. Should make some long trips very interesting. I also have the case for it, so when you take it off, you can put it into its own little hard case. It's not that big either. So, no complaints. Alright. Listen, guys, lessons learned. You know, you only know after you do. So, learn from my mistakes. They say that a smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So, hopefully you're a wiser man than me and you can learn from my mistakes.